Hello there, it's Cassie. Welcome back. Today I am over on the Brutus Monroe blog with this fun project. So let's go ahead and get started with what I'm making today. I'm going to use these laser cuts, and these are the pineapple chipboard. There's a bunch in this little bag, and I just could not resist. So I wanted to grab out the gesso. This is the white gesso, and this is fairly new to Brutus Monroe. So I'm just going to use a paintbrush, and I am going to paint this all over the pineapple. Now the reason one would do this is because you plan to do some coloring of some sort. I've in the past just used embossing powder right on it, and you wouldn't have to prep it, but gesso is basically a prepper if you've never used it before. It just preps your surface and it gives you a little bit of something to work on top of. So I'll clean up my mess and I'll set that off to the side to dry, and I'm going to make sure that I put my lid on fairly tight because I do not want my gesso to dry out. And I'm working on my glass mat, which makes it super easy. All I have to do is grab a baby wipe and I can wipe that right up. I am going to heat my gesso, or heat the pineapple to kind of get that gesso, well, to get it done, to get it dry and get it ready to go. Because I plan to use a couple different things on it. So I'm grabbing my Waffle flour water media mat, and I'm going to also grab some Aqua pigment in the color green. I am in love with the Aqua pigments right now. I fairly new to them, and I went ahead and got the first set, and yeah, I may just have to get them all. So I am just kind of painting that on, and you can see now if I had just painted that right onto the chipboard, it would not have been that color of green. So putting that gesso down is a good idea if you'd like to keep your colors true to what they actually are. I'm sure it would have been fairly pretty with just doing it right on top of the chipboard, but this gives me a look that is a little bit more true to the color itself. So I'll clean up my water media mat with a baby wipe, the beauty of that thing. And then I'm going to move on to using this Sunshine Glitter Glaze. Now, if you've never used this stuff, it's a lot of fun. It looks very different when it dries, and and this was from their spring collection, so I believe this is still available, but I'm just going to use a Ranger tool a palette knife basically to spread this all over, and I'm not caring about whether or not it's textured or whatever the case may be, because I'm adding some texture with lines. I'm going to try and make this actually look a little bit more like a pineapple, as much as I can anyway. And so I'll wipe up my mess and set that off to the side to dry. In the meantime, I'll grab some lunchbox cardstock, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 1/4 by 11 inches, and then I will eventually turn that into a card base. I have grabbed the stripes and dots paper, and I'm going to do the purple stripes, and I'm going to trim that down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. I want this to not be the full size of a card base. Next, I'll grab the die of the month, and this thing is gorgeous, and I'm going to put this through my Sizzix Big Shot machine. And I'm loving my new space because I can actually have this on the desk next to me. And then I'll just pop all those little pieces out. Now, if you haven't heard of the Die of the Month Club, you really should go check it out. You can buy this one-time deal, or you can just be a part of the club and get it for cheaper. And of course, you know, that's always a better deal. So I'll have that listed down below if that's something that you're interested in. But I'm just going to use my paper piercer to get all those little pieces out. And then once I'm done down at the bottom there, get those last little bits, I'll chuck all those, and then look at how beautiful that is. Oh my goodness. It's gorgeous, and the team has done some amazing things with this die. I'm going to use my score buddy, and I'm going to score my paper at 5 1/2 inches. This was my card base, and that'll make it a top folding A2 size card. To attach that to my purple striped cardstock, I am just going to put some little dots of glue on all those little parts. And I don't go too crazy with the glue. I just put it in a little bit of the parts, and then I put it all on the outside, and then I stick down my pattern paper, and then I'll flip that over and she'll be ready to go. I love how that looks. And it actually will cover the entire front of an A2 card. So that's really nice. And then I'm going to use my liquid glue once again, and I will stick all of this down using that liquid glue right down there to the card base. and then I'll be ready to start working with my pineapple a little bit more. I've been letting that sit off to the side to dry while I assemble the rest of it. So you can speed up the process of the drying by using a heat tool. You don't want to leave it on one part for too long because you can cause some bubbling. And but it doesn't really take that long to dry. I just kind of work it, and then I set it aside, and I'm going to work on the sentiment now. And this comes from the Feathered Homes stamp set. This is brand new to Brutus Monroe. If you have been around, you know that they had a giant release this last week. And oh my goodness, the excitement. It's just, there are so many stamp sets. There's 21 stamp sets and a bunch of pattern papers. And so you really should just go check out the store. I'm using my embossing bag, my magic embossing bag, to put that right onto some white cardstock, and I'm going to stamp my sentiment using the clear embossing ink, and then I'm going to cover that with the night embossing powder. Now this is a part of the stamp club as well, or the embossing club. So this is, you know, the embossing powder of the month, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's this purple shimmer. Isn't that gorgeous? And then I'm going to grab my paper trimmer, and then I will start trimming all of that down. But I wanted to show off some of the new products for this month. I just had to. To distress my pineapple, I'm going to use some surface inks. These surface inks are fantastic because they can go on a lot of different surfaces. So I'm starting off with my jack-o'-lantern ink, and then I'm going to move on to some terracotta. The thing with the surface inks is that they do take a little bit longer to dry, so you can heat set those, which is what I will do. And just kind of holding that there. And then I plan to use some sage surface ink right on the leaves to add just a little bit more texture to the leaves as well. I'll use my ATG gun to stick down my sentiment, trying to use my glass mat to make things fairly straight, as straight as I can make them anyway. And then I'll flip that over, and I will use my scissors to trim off the excess. And then I'm going to test out my pineapple. She's still a little wet, so I'll use my heat tool, and I'll run that over that once again. And even by this time, it's dry to the touch, but it's not 100% dry. I wouldn't want to like stick a book on top of it or anything, but it is dry to the touch. And so that's enough for me to be able to use my liquid glue to adhere that pineapple right down to the card front, and then I can let that baby just sit and dry for the rest of the night. But I'm telling you, Brutus Monroe has a lot of really great products that are fun for mixed media and for card making. So like I said, a lot of these products are for mixed media, but they're great for the card making as well. And so that's what that looks like all done. So yeah, go check out the Brutus Monroe blog if you haven't already done so. You can get a lot of inspiration there, and check out the shop, check out the new things that are going on over there, and go ahead and hit that like button if you liked this video, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. And as always, thank you so much for stopping by.